welcome to BC Brew on Tap as we take a look at the rapidly emerging craft beer scene in and around British Columbia. Russ Ovens is the owner and founder of Barkerville Brewing. Nice to see you, sir. Welcome.
Good to see you again,
Welcome
Joe.
to the show. Now, Barkerville is kind of like in the center of the province.
Barkerville is, though our brewery itself is in Quesnel.
Okay.
And Quesnel is about an hour south of Prince George, right on Highway 97. So we're right in the middle of the province.
When we think of Barkerville, and again, I know I was there once as a young man, but it's kind of like based on, like there's kind of a historic quality to Barkerville, correct?
Well, it was. Barkerville is named after Billy Barker, who discovered gold there in 1860-ish, about that. And at one point, Barkerville was the largest city north of Chicago and north of San Francisco and west of Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, it was. And it's part of the reason why British Columbia became a province, was because of the discovery of gold in that part of our land. So
okay, so give me your quick story then, Russ. Like what got you into the beer business? We've talked before, and I know you've got a pretty rich history, but why beer? Why now? Why?
Well, I've been interested in the craft beer industry for many, many years, and I'm a computer scientist by training. I was a software tech entrepreneur.
So you're a smart guy.
I have a PhD in computer science.
Okay.
I don't know whether that makes me a smart guy or a nerd or whatever you want to call it,
okay.
but unique, I suppose. That's a good word, unique. So I had a software startup in Victoria, and we were making social games on Facebook. We did very well. It blew up, and I sold it in 2010 to Real Networks out of Seattle. And so I was 45 years old, and I was basically retired. I was work optional. And a bunch of my friends knew I was really interested in owning my own brewery and starting up a brewery. I worked with Sean Hoyne a little bit on his business plan and wanted to invest in the Hoyne Brewing Company, but I got shut out of that deal, so I kind of like gave up on the idea. But a number of friends of mine kept saying, you should open a brewery in Barkerville, because I had a number of friends from that part of the province. I saw it as a real opportunity, not only because there was no other breweries in the Cariboo, and not only that, but it's a really great and rich part of our history and a great story to tell. So I hummed and hawed a bit, but anyways, I moved to Scotland for a year. I visited 365 different pubs in 365 days and blogged about it, and got super excited about owning my own brewery. So when we moved back to Canada, I went for it, and we opened in February of 2014 in Quebec.
Okay, so you're relatively later into the craft beer party.
Yeah.
Was there any concern that, geez, maybe I've missed the
Yeah.
boom, and maybe I'm getting in a bit late?
Well, when we opened, we were about the 60th craft brewery in British Columbia. 60th, and it was crowded then, but of course now it's
crazy.
Insanely, it's crazy. Yeah, that's a good word. And so we do feel like we should have opened maybe a couple of years previous, but what we've actually found is that most of our sales and our growth is coming from within the Cariboo itself. And that's a market where we needed to do a fair amount of education, because it was not a craft beer market. And so opening a little bit earlier I don't know whether we would still end up in the same place that we are now, which is that, we really caught on as the craft brewery of our community and had a lot of support there.
Okay, so tell me about that aspect of it, because I would think that if you go to some of the smaller areas of BC where they don't have, like for example, in the lower mainland of Vancouver, Greater Vancouver, there's a great variety of craft beer. Yeah. You go to some place like, say, Quesnel, where there isn't quite that same amount of variety, and you've probably got a lot of old traditional corporate beer drinkers.
Yes, you do.
Was it an immediate success, or did it take a little convincing to get these people off their kokanees and their Molsons and try something different?
It was both. We were an immediate success in that there was a great deal of community support and excitement about the fact that Quesnel was getting their own brewery. And when we opened the doors, we had the lineup and sold out of beer in our first week. The usual success stories of small communities when they get their first brewery. But it was the repeat sales that were slow. People tried the beer, they found it was too bitter, too hoppy, not quite what their palate was accustomed to. So it's actually been over the 3 years now that we just had our third anniversary back in February, that we've really started to move the local drinkers over to craft and develop their palates. And in fairness to us, we did make a mistake. We didn't launch with an easy drinking Pilsner or lager or anything like that.
You kind of went adventurous?
Well, we thought we were being very conservative. We launched with our 18 karat amber ale, which is 33 IBU, kind of like an extra special bitter. And we thought it was a very accessible beer, but it wasn't really. It was a little bit too much.
Well, I've become a hophead, so to me that sounds interesting. So tell us about Barkerville. What are you known for? What are a couple of the stars in your galaxy there?
Well, the stars in our galaxy are definitely our 52-foot stout, which is made with birch syrup, which is harvested in Quesnel. Quesnel is one of the few places on the planet where birch syrup is a crop, or I don't know what you call a syrup, but a commodity. And right from the beginning, we made it with birch syrup, and that beer has done extremely well in the BC Beer Awards, silver medal in 2015, and then won the gold last year in the British Stout category. That, I think, is really our flagship beer. Our White Gold Wit beer as well also won BC Beer Awards 2015, and that's a really good, refreshing, on-style wit. And then third, I guess, our Wandering Camel IPA is our biggest selling beer. And we have our own canning line, and we bet heavy on cans. So our Wandering Camel is in cans, our Prospector's Pilsner is in cans, our Hound of Barkerville Brown Ale in cans as well. So those are our core beers, our canned beers.
Now, finally, what's your plan? Like, I mean, are you staying centrally located in the middle of the province, or are you making big inroads into the Lower Mainland? What's your goal?
Well, right from the beginning, our business plan was to export throughout the province of BC, and we do that. Our beer is available everywhere, and it's also available in Alberta and Manitoba. But our plan is really has been to continue to grow our base within our local community. Because with any brewery, the closer you can sell the beer to the actual place it's produced, the higher the profit margins. And so we will continue to really focus on growing our brands within our local community at the same time as being known as that northern craft brewery who makes exceptional beer in the rest of the province.
Pleasure meeting you. Russ
Great.
Ovens,
Thanks,
the founder of Barkerville Brewing, and I'm glad you left some samples because I'm dying to try it. There's more Brew on Tap coming up.
Host hair services for Joe Leary and BC Brew on Tap, provided by Bailey Murphy of Avant Garde Hair Studio in Yaletown at 1075 Mainland Street. For a list of services, call 604-688-1986 or online avantgardehair.com. Location services for BC Brew on Tap, provided by Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. For a list of locations, visit mahoneyandSons.com.
Time for a little BC Brew on Tap road trip. We're heading to Commercial Drive Merchants Workshop, where we're going to pair their great food along with Bridge Brewing's great beers and brewmaster Carrie Dyson. Welcome back to BC Brew on Tap. Time for a little food and beer pairing segment. We're here at Merchants Workshop at the corner of Commercial Drive and Gravely. Mr. Doug Stephen is the chef and owner. Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Great to see you, Joe. I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Carrie Dyson is the head brewer from Bridge Brewing in North Vancouver. Now, I brought you two guys together because you have a relationship with Bridge in-house here at Merchants.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I've decided to put some of your great beers to the test with some of your great food. First of all, tell me about your food program at Merchants.
We basically just try to produce the best food that we possibly can in a slightly smaller plate kind of format, gunning towards whatever keeps our interest peaked. We're very seasonal, very local, as much as possible, and that's also why we have such a great relationship with Bridge, because they seem to follow the same standards.
Every brewery has a star beer. Every restaurant should have a star dish. What's the star at Merchants?
Oh, if you had have asked me 2 days ago, I would have said something different than the one sitting right in front of you. But right now, this is the dish that excites me the
Okay,
most.
before we get to the dish, let's talk to Carrie about the beer. Now, first beer up is kind of a unique titled Ryan Ginger.
Yeah, it's a bit of a play on the cocktail Ryan Ginger. I drink a lot of them. It's one of my favorites.
I have some history with them as well, yes.
So what we tried to do is make an amber ale, so that's kind of the base, and then we're adding ginger 3 different ways. So we have candied, fresh, and powdered ginger. And by adding it different ways, we're getting different qualities. So the goal is not to make a ginger beer. I didn't want any of that bite and heat. But by using the fresh ginger, you get this amazing aroma coming through. The candied ginger gives a little bit of sweetness. And then the powdered ginger actually is the cleanest ginger flavor. So by using them, all three of them, you get this really pronounced like ginger flavor coming through, and that a little bit of spice, but none of the ginger heat. So that was kind of the goal for this, a little bit sweet and like kind of honey quality, but it very much is a play on that cocktail.
Okay, so you got a whole lot in the bottle. Doug, what have you got on the plate here?
On the plate, this is our chicken liver parfait tart in a thyme spiked savory tart shell. A little bit of a pork gastrique gel. There's some creme fraiche, pickled shallots, fresh thyme, and micro sorrel. The whole goal when I thought about pairing these two together was the fact that there is a unique crispness that does remind me of that cocktail. I'm a Manitoba boy, and I think that's the provincial drink in Manitoba, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought that this would really shine beautifully with the beer and showcase the beer in a different light. Whenever we look at pairing food to beer, we kind of approach it more so from a wine pairing perspective than your traditional beer pairing styles.
Looks great. Disc number 2 at Merchant's Workshop on Commercial Drive, and we're starting off with the beer, the Bourbon Blood Orange. Now, I was talking earlier about star beers. This is one of your stars.
Yeah, definitely. It's we're brewing the most of it. It's our best seller. A ton of work goes into it. It's blood orange. It's got bourbon in there. We soak the bourbon on oak as well to pull some of that barrel character, but we're brewing it all the time, so it's it's a ton of work. We've brewed it twice this week already.
Okay.
But what we're trying to do is it's an American wheat, and then by playing up that like bourbon and oak character along with the orange, what we're getting is kind of a play on an old fashioned. So you have all those like characters working together, and it has a little bit of sweetness to finish it off, but it's still really easy drinking, kind of like my go-to summer beer, the patio beer that I always drink.
Okay, once again, Chef, a lot to work with here. So when you've put together quite the plate, what is this?
This is a little confit pork belly served over top of sauce romesco with sweet potatoes, a little bit of pan-fried leeks, pickled fennel and ramps, as well as some leaves from our garden. Great richness to it. Hopefully, well, the goal is the blood orange, the bourbon blood orange has that, again, that crispness that's going to cut right through the fat. And I fell in love with this beer, 2.5 years ago when you guys first started making it. And it appeals to every single one of my sensibilities with both the blood orange and the bourbon. And I think it pairs beautifully with this dish.
That looks too good to mess up with forks and knives, but that's great. That's dish number 2. Back at Merchant's Workshop on Commercial Drive, 2 for 2 so far. Now we're in my country with IPA. This is always my go-to beers is IPA. Carrie, tell us about the side cut, because that's one of your stars.
Yeah, it's a Northeast IPA, so it's super hazy, and then with that you're going to get a lot of mouthfeel, and we're intentionally doing this so the hops kind of stick on the tongue. And we do a bunch of different interesting things with this, but the aroma is just outrageous with this beer. You get notes of like tangerine and then pineapple and all these like kind of guava notes, these big tropical notes that are coming through, and then it's a hefty beer. It's 7.3%, and it's still really easy drink. It's trying to hit that balance, but it's got that malt character behind it. It's got the ABV, and it's got that bitterness.
Man, I love your passion behind beer, and Doug, I'm loving your food. This thing looks and tastes and sounds really exotic.
It's our mushroom tagliolini. So tagliolini is like an egg-enriched noodle, and we want to play off of, again, those notes of the citrus character with both the richness of the noodle and the richness of the mushrooms and the earthiness. We then hit it with a stinging nettle pesto because it kind of really screams spring. On top is some spring onion flowers and just doused with Parmigiano Reggiano
Stinging nettle
cheese.
pesto.
Oh yeah. It's actually a classic pesto from Italy, traditionally made in the spring, and something that we have the ability to do here in town because we have a beautiful bounty of stinging nettles every spring.
Doug Stephen from Merchant's Workshop, Carrie Dyson from Bridge Brewing in North Vancouver. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers. More BC Brew on tap coming up. What gave you the idea to create Direct Tap?
Just a better, more reliable logistics platform. And all of our friends that were growing their rapidly growing craft breweries who have become great friends of yours, they were having the same challenge, was getting their beer to market across the province and doing it in a fashion that like resonated with their brand, as if we were sort of an extension of their team. And yeah, just putting passion into a logistics part of the business.
Okay, now from what I understand, if I'm a retailer, if I own a bar,
Yep.
and I want to pick up, say, Doan's Craft Brewing, I can actually have them deliver a keg to me.
Yep.
Right? So I don't have to go through Direct Tap.
Yeah, absolutely. Many guys have, their one vehicle that they bring to festivals and kind of deliver kegs down the street from their brewery. But when you start to think about putting multiple trucks on the road and trying to get your beer to, you know, the consumer across the province, you need a lot of vehicles, you need a lot of staff in order to do that, and it becomes really inefficient.
How many square feet?
We're 80,000 square feet here in Vancouver. We have a facility in Summerland, which is 17,500 square feet, and we have great friends and partners that we operate with on the island, which is 12,500 square feet.
So you're 80,000 square feet. There's no shortage of breweries represented here. How many actually are you participating with?
We work with just over 70 breweries that we partner with now throughout the province.
So there's cold storage here as well. Okay, so tell me about this.
Well, very important for craft beer, especially. This is sort of our igloo, if you will. Most of the beer that we work with is all kept here in this cooler. So this is just under 14,000 square feet, and with the ability to kind of scale it a bit larger. But this is sort of prime time for craft beer, obviously. Software is playing a big part in our business. You know, at the end of the day, we move goods from A to B, but how that information is transparently given to our partners is extremely important. At the same time, protecting their sales information, their inventory information is paramount for our, our team. That confidentiality is extremely important.
Okay, Mike, I know that you have a handle on everything that's in here, but does every beer company know exactly what they've got here?
They should, yeah.
They
absolutely.
should, yeah.
We keep, our system is basically all cloud-based, so they can see their inventory live at any given time and what's in inventory in Victoria, the interior, and here in Vancouver. So I've actually been told, or I've heard a little rumor that you've got something special in this cooler here.
Well, since you brought it up, Mike, yeah, in fact, this is Lighthouse out of Vancouver Island, and this just happens to be my Just Here for the Beer Imperial IPA. So it just goes to show you, like, this is really close to home right now.
Yeah.
You've got everything here.
The thing that I think is the most exciting about it is, you know, anybody can get beer to downtown Vancouver, but, you know, by working with Direct Tap, we've been able to get beer into the craft beer into the farthest corners of the province. And there's just some people that are so thankful for that they can get the beer that they've read about or heard about, even on your show. They can now get that in Prince George. They can get it in Golden, BC. They can get it, you know, in Tofino in the backyard. So, and they can get it that same week because we're sending our trucks there every week. So.
Well, you've told me that you distribute province-wide, and I understand that you also go outside of the province, but we've got something over here that goes way outside the province. It goes way outside of the country.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a bar, a really cool craft beer bar in Beijing, who has become really good friends with a number of the craft breweries here in Vancouver, and so we consolidate all that beer, and these are one-way kegs, so they don't come back. They go over to Asia and get consumed there.
So is this kind of a unique situation?
Yeah, I think so. I think it will become more popular as the demand and desire
for BC beer goes worldwide.
Yeah. And so the nice part about it is you have to ship it over on a temperature controlled shipping container, and so we're able to consolidate a number of great brands, and then away it goes.
And that's a good segue, because speaking of shipping containers, we're going to talk about the future of Direct Tap next.
Yeah, our new home.
So you've recently expanded, and you can see that it's pretty clear that you're far from finished here,
yeah.
Right? And you were talking about shipping containers. We see a bunch of them here, so tell us what this is all about.
Well, this is either a brilliant or a really stupid idea of me. So we were going to build out our offices completely, and I decided, you know, we're in the shipping business. What better way to work with a number of shipping containers and design all of our, our offices for our admin team, our sales team, our accounting team. So it's a work in progress right now, but we've got 18, I think it's 18, maybe 20 of these shipping containers. They're all going to be stacked on top of each other like big kid Lego, and those will be our offices, essentially.
Now, you've got this all mapped out. This is not just your dream. You've actually got this on paper, is that right?
Yep, well, the architects do anyways. So yeah, this is entrance customer service team here, and a number of washrooms and offices, meeting room. We've got, obviously, we're going to have a bar and full kitchen and sort of a lounge area. And then the second floor, there's actually shipping containers that are on top of all of these, and they kind of stack above. So it's going to be pretty neat if we can pull it off. We really wanted to be a part of the community. We wanted of the craft beer community, and it's evolved now into the wine, cider, and spirits as well. But we really wanted to be a passionate partner to these guys as they grow their businesses. And I think so far we've been able to prove that, and I think we're excited to continue to grow At the end of the day, we are a partner of those breweries we work with, and hopefully share in their success and are able to get them across the province and beyond.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Good luck with it.
Yeah.
Like you need it.
Yeah.
More BC Brew on Tap on Chalk coming up.
Host hair services for Joe Leary and BC Brew on Tap provided by Bailey Murphy of Avant Garde Hair Studio in Yaletown at 1075 Mainland Street. For a list of services, call 604-688-1986 or online avantgardehair.com. Location services for BC Brew on Tap provided by Mahoney and Sons at Canada Place. For a list of locations, visit mahoneyandSons.com.
Welcome back to Brew on Tap from Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. Our guest is Paul Pine. DrinkSmarter.ca is your creation. Nice to see you, sir. How are
Nice to see
you?
you, Joe. It's good to see you, as
Okay,
always.
tell us about DrinkSmarter.
Yeah, DrinkSmarter.ca is sort of my little consulting craft beer business. The idea is to help educate the public on the craft beer scene and just to kind of gain general knowledge within the industry. So the idea is to help industry professionals do their job a little bit better, as well as educate the public on the products that they're receiving.
Now, you yourself have been around the craft beer scene for a while. I would say to my eye, and probably you more than I would know, but it seems like there's a fairly educated craft beer market in Greater Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great amount of knowledge that's out there. People really do have a passion for it, so they learn as much as they can. But there is still a large percentage of people that could stand to learn a little bit more about the industry itself and the products that are in there, just so that they can have a better understanding of where it all comes from.
Does it frustrate you if you talk to somebody who's like really set in their ways? They've been drinking brand X forever, and it's like, you're not changing my mind. Do you find people are malleable, or are there some people that just, no, not interested?
I mean, you have both sides of the spectrum, I think. There are people who are wanting to learn more. There are those people who are just set in their ways and they're happy to drink their same beer every single day, but they're missing out. Is how I feel about that. There's so many great beers in our province and in North America in general that if you don't want to experiment and try those other brands, then you're just losing out.
What was your indoctrination into the whole craft beer thing? I mean, were you like a long time, generic beer drinker that sort of found about craft and tried a few and enjoyed it, or what introduced you to it?
Well, I worked in restaurants for many years, and I saw the change happening and the craft beer scene kind of starting to explode, and I was fortunate enough to be around it when it started to really explode. And that was good enough for me to see that there was something to go a little bit further with.
I always love these unrehearsed aha moments, but I'm going to ask you, was there an aha moment where like you tried something and you went, wow, that's pretty good?
Well, when I was looking to further my career in restaurants, I was going to go the wine route, do the sommelier program, and then I learned about the Cicerone program, which is on the beer side of things, and I thought, oh, I didn't know that was something I could do. So that's the direction I went in, and the moment I started getting involved, I really fell in love with it and just kept expanding on it.
As a beer guy, Paul, and I pride myself in the fact that, if you met me 3-4 years ago, I was strictly a lager guy and that was it. And if you gave me like an IPA, I'd probably send it back going, I think your beer's gone bad. Right. Now I'm a hophead. But that's all I can enjoy really is IPAs and hoppy beers. In your perspective, can you enjoy all kinds of beers? Because let's face it, they're not all created equal.
No, they definitely aren't. I do love beer in general, so I'm more of a situational drinker, if you will. So it depends on the weather, it depends on my mood, it depends on what's going on around me. It will dictate sort of what beer I'm craving. I do like a large spectrum of beers.
Is seasonality important? Like, I mean, I still, maintain that what I enjoy in December, I'm going to enjoy in July. But I've had other people say, no, you kind of got to go with the seasons and you drink accordingly. Like, richer stouts perhaps in wintertime and lighter lagers in summer.
It does help to drink in that sort of seasonality because they're designed for that specific need. But I don't know, there's something nice about sitting out on a a cool summer evening and drinking a big meaty stout and smoking a cigar. You know, it doesn't. Every beer has its place, I think, in time.
Okay, if there's somebody out there that perhaps is new to the beer party and going, geez, you know, I want to expand my knowledge. You know, I'm a, say, a lucky lager drinker, and I want to go beyond that. Where would you steer them?
I mean, there's lots of online resources as well, but there's, in Vancouver specifically, I studied under Chester Carey, who is Canada's first certified Cicerone, and he teaches a class at the Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts that does do some beer training and gets you set up to move into this direction.
One final question, and I don't mean to demean people, but I mean, I've noticed that wine became kind of snobbish. There was like some snobbery in wine. Is there snobbery in beer? Or is it, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, there's definitely a level of snobbery when you get to any level of anything. You know, when once people get enough knowledge, they tend to look down their nose at certain things. I mean, without wanting to, there are times that my knowledge has ruined experiences with beer for me because of little nuances that the general public wouldn't pick up on that I pick up on. But ultimately, a beer is a beer. I'm not going to dismiss it. I'll pretty much drink anything. So,
I like this guy. Drinksmarter.ca. Paul Pine, thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Joe.
That's a wrap for BC Brew on Tap. We always encourage you to enjoy all that British Columbia has to offer, but please remember to plan a safe ride home and drink responsibly. We'll see you next time.
Clothing for Joe Leary and BC Brew on Tap supplied by Red Dragon Apparel. RedDragonApparel.com. For BC Brew on Tap, this is Mike Schaefer.